He says, "Hi, Lee. In your experience as a Chargers broadcaster, what was the toughest place to play on the road for the Chargers?" My guess would be the Kingdome. Great show.
Kingdome was one of them. Greg may be from Seattle. I remember Bobby Ross told me that he had to tell his guys going to the Kingdome. And again, the Kingdome was massive. It was all cement. The noise just ricocheted off the walls. I mean, it was bedlam. And Bobby Ross told his players, more than anything else, we're playing the Seahawks, don't fumble the ball on the kickoff. Don't fumble a punt return. And we had a really good guy on returns, Ronnie Harmon, great veteran player.
Oh, yeah.
What does he do? He fumbles the opening kickoff in the first quarter. Seahawks get it. Seahawks score. And the volume level in that building went up. And you couldn't call audibles in there. It was so doggone hard to communicate. So I think that place is probably one of the loudest. Again, because of the dome and because of the cement venue. The new field in Seattle, pretty doggone noisy. It's an open-air stadium, but the way the seats are structured, fans are right on top of you, and the noise doesn't get out of there. And I think Arrowhead Stadium historically, because that's in a bowl and it's all around, just like Lambeau is a bowl, and they've built skyboxes on top of Lambeau, on top of the seats to go down at a very steep angle. I'd say Arrowhead and Lambeau are probably as tough outdoor ventures as there are anywhere, but it's noisy. And man, I mean, while I was doing the radio broadcast as the voice of the Chargers, and even to a degree the Seahawks, you're wearing headsets and you still can't hear because the microphone is sucking all the noise in your head. So pretty good venues.
Well, I've been to the Kingdome, but to watch a baseball game, and that was really weird, you know, because they had the old school artificial turf that's like, an eighth of an inch thick, and Ken Griffey was playing back then, which was cool. You talked a lot about when you were the broadcaster of the Chargers. I remember you talked a lot about how Arrowhead was so tough, and it was an environment, a hostile environment, unlike any other place the Chargers would regularly play.
Yeah, and even if the greatest anger rivalry is the Raiders, silver and black, going back 1,000 years and all that, Arrowhead is so different, and maybe it's just because everybody wears red. There are no fans, there are no tickets to get to see the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Nobody's selling their tickets on a second market to Charger fan. So I mean, it is hostile, and it is all red, and it's very steep. The seats, I mean, it's a bowl. And the seats are high and they go down and they are right on the field. So you're playing the Chiefs and you're playing the fans, and they are relentless. It's just rugged. So winning a game in there, first time we won in there was amazing. And then the Super Bowl season where we actually beat Schottenheimer, had a great team, and Bobby Ross beat them, and all that hostility. That was worth the price of admission to experience that.
Yeah, I mean that's, and then the weather would always be horrible. It'd be cold as hell.
And and I will say this: Pittsburgh, because of the terrible towel and that Steeler tradition, that building rocks. But it's not as crazy as Lambeau Field, where the fans are right on top of you, or Arrowhead Stadium.
It's kind of cool here because Brave Bull agrees with you. He goes, Arrowhead, Lambeau, got to be hard to play. So let's go on here to Robert, and he says, why don't we let the Padres, like Crony, listen to Tony Gwynn's advice to pull hitters in a slump? Try making 4 outs to the left side of the field. Work for the guys Tony told.
Well, I concur. These guys are streaky. It's a tough game. The baseball, John, is such a grind. Jurickson Profar is hitting 177 over the last month. Nobody's made much of it. He's hitting $177. Yeah. He's just tired. He's fatigued. And maybe Mike Schilt. I know they're fighting to win the wild card, and they still have some outside hope of trying to chase down the Dodgers. But maybe Schilt needs to give these guys days off. Crony never takes a day off. Profar never takes a day off. Machado, when he was dinged, they would give him a day and let him be the DH. But I think you got to get off your legs. And I tend to think the mental fatigue is just unbelievable. And then you got some dude out there who's throwing 102 with wicked stuff that's, burning your shoelaces off because it moves so quick. So I think it's really, really hard for these guys to play 162 games. Cronenworth's had a rock solid, consistent season. Machado's had some dry spells. Bogart's had a really bad dry spell before he got hurt. Now Profar has just MIA'd it. And he's so fatigued because he's on the move all the time. So it's a tough grind. Maybe Shilton needed to rest guys more once a series, or once or twice a homestand, or once or twice on the road.
Well, he needs to rest guys, but he also needs to win.
Exactly.
So he's in a tough spot. I remember early in the season that Profar and Arise were both at the top of the leaderboard for batting average in the 330s, 340s. And now Profar is in the 280s. I mean, he's dropped like a rock, but you still would rather have Profar out there than, Tyler Wade.
But if you can give a guy a day off, like if you gave a guy a day off today, he got off the plane from Tampa, he doesn't play today, and tomorrow is an off day, that's 48 hours of respite. And I'll tell you, it does wonders for the players physically, and I think as well as emotionally. Arise, you can't get him out of the lineup because the guy wants to play all the time. He's the best bad ball hitter I've ever seen since I was a kid growing up, and they used to talk about Yogi Berra swinging at pitches he shouldn't have. Arise swings at pitches in all 3 San Diego area codes and gets hits.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And Jackson Merrill also has a similar talent for knowing how to put the bat on the ball just the right way. And, here Robert's talking about guys going the other way. Cronenworth does that a lot too. And you've seen Manny going the other way. And then Merrill is outstanding at it. Merrill can make the adjustment to kind of doink a single to the left side, or he can hit for power to the right. I mean, it's amazing.
How about Merrill on let me see, how can I phrase this? In 3 consecutive innings in Tampa Bay, home run, face first dive of a catch to snuff out a rally, and a stolen base in 3 straight innings. The kid is doing it all.
He's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, and he's already passed Benito Santiago for the most RBI. I mean, I remember 1975, Fred Lynn was a rookie, and I think he won the MVP that year. And it's center fielder for the Red Sox. They went to the World Series. What a magical run. Maybe we might have the next Fred Lynn.
Well, we get the rookie of the year here for sure. Period, exclamation point. Don't argue with me. I'm a talk show host. Jackson Merrill has been spectacular at age 21. New position, never played the doggone thing, but he's such a student of the game, and he's such a great athlete. So that's a cool story. Next question.
All right, let's go here to John. He goes, being reported that Tatis is being activated for tonight's game.
Could well be. Now, I saw a video of him in Arizona in a summer league game, and his gait running the bases, it sure didn't look right to me. But again, this is in the doctor's hands. They know him better. So I wonder if he'll start in right field, or maybe they'll DH him just to get his feet on the ground, get him going. So we knew that was coming. The next one is probably a decision on what they do with Darvish. Is Darvish ready after throwing 66 pitches in a summer league game against 18-year-olds in Arizona, or does he need a rehab start? That'll be intriguing to see how quickly they move on Darvish. That's the next one to happen.
There it is, right there. Tatis is in the lineup today, right here. You can just kind of show it to the camera there. And it's going to be, he's going to bat second. So it'll be Arise, Tatis, Solano, Machado, Bogarts, Merrill, Peralta, Higashioka, McCoy, and then Musgrove's pitching today.
Is Tatis DHing, or is he in right field?
He's in right field. Arise is DH.
So anyhow, I saw what I saw, but obviously they must think he's 100% or close to 100% ready. And they got themselves 30 days now before the end of the season, so they can spot him. They'll play him, see how his body reacts to full baseball mode. Thanks, John. Next question.
Okay, here, let's go to Callan. He says, Johnny Gaudreau's death reminds me of Nick Adenhart. So tragic. Prayers up. Lee, any thoughts on the AHL mandating neck guards for players and refs, and will the NHL make it mandatory?
That has to go through the National Hockey League Players Association. It's currently a player's choice. I think after the tragic death of that former NHL player in England, when he got checked, fell, and a skate cut, severed an artery in his neck, and he's passed away. Junior hockey, the Western Hockey League, and I think the Quebec Hockey League, the top 2 junior leagues in Canada, mandated immediately after that tragedy in England that everybody wore throat guards. They look like turtleneck sweaters, but they have this heavy-duty plastic which a skate could not penetrate. The American Hockey League just announced last week everybody will wear these throat guards, which, hey, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you watch a player get dressed in a dressing room in the NHL, they wear all these pads down here and around their wrists so that if by some happenstance a guy gets a skate that comes across his glove or penetrates, it won't go to the artery here. So, and you look at the protectors that the goaltenders wear. I mean, at the massive shoulder protection and the chest protection. Of course, they were looking at 100-mile-an-hour slap shots. And obviously the advent of the face shield. Now, some guys don't wear it. Other guys do wear it down to here. Some guys wear a more fuller face shield to protect. And college hockey, everybody wears a mask, a cage, actually. So it's there for protection. Why you would not wear a throat guard? Why not? Well, it's not going to happen to me. Well, you don't know that. You can get somebody runs into a defenseman in front of them, it gets flipped upside down, and you're the other defenseman going for the puck. That guy's flying through the air, somersaulting. You could get clipped. I would wear it, and maybe more players will, but it will be mandated in the American Hockey League, and obviously it is in the juniors.
You see those old school video footage of NHL players with no helmet.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. There must have been some really horrible accidents on the ice.
There have been. I was in the minor leagues. When I was in the Eastern Hockey League in Mohawk Valley, we played the Long Island Ducks, or maybe it was the New Haven Blades. One of their defensemen fell behind our net, and one of our guys fell over him and sliced the back of his neck. And the blood was pouring out. Now, that was a fatty area. They got him to the hospital. They stitched him up. They saved him. He actually came back and played probably a week later. It looked bad because of the location, but it wasn't here where the arteries are. So, there've been some along the way. And of course, at one point, we really had the Broad Street Bully era and the Big Boy Bad Bruin era, where fighting was part of it. And there were head injuries and things of that nature. Some really bad stuff happened. But yeah, you can get hurt. You can get hurt by high stick, an accidental high stick. You can get hurt by skate cut too, because guys are flying and guys get hit and their bodies go different angles. And you just might be a victim there. And a guy comes by and you get hit with a skate as he's going by. So the league mandates it. And the only reason it's not in the NHL right now is just because it has to go through the union. And I don't know why it's been discussed, but it has not been proposed and voted on.
He also brings up the point here, Johnny Gaudreau and Nick Aidenhart. And it is an emotional loss of life of a healthy young man, a young woman in a season. I think of Len Bias. I mean,
sure.
What can you think of who was maybe the one that affected you the most emotionally?
Well, first of all, the fans know Nick Aidenhart was a high draft pick of the Angels, a bright young pitcher, got killed by a drunk driver a night after a game, going home, got broadsided, died instantly. And of course, what happened to Johnny Gaudreau of the Columbus Blue Jackets this past week. The tragedy that I covered in person, because I was friends with him, was terrible. It was Thurman Munson, but that was an accident. He was a private pilot on an off day with the Yankees. He'd fly home from New York to Akron, Canton, Ohio, and on his off day he would fly. And then he was doing practice takeoffs and landings in I don't know if it was a Piper Cub or a small Learjet that he owned. And he missed the runway, hit a fence, he broke his neck, couldn't get him out. Thing caught on fire. He died in the cockpit. And I had to cover that story, and I had to cover the funeral. It was unbelievably grasping of the heart, because the Yankees came en masse. And I sat in a corner of the church in North Canton at the funeral service, and there was Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson weeping. I mean, uncontrollably. And Munson, he was captain. Munson was proud and loud, and he would tell you what he thought. He didn't care if you were Reggie Jackson or Billy Martin. He would tell you what he thought. And he was a great leader. And it was just a sad happenstance of he was practicing takeoffs and goes, or whatever they call it, and he missed the runway and went right through a fence, and the plane went nose first in, and he got trapped. He broke his neck. They couldn't get him out of the thing, and it caught on fire.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just as a young reporter broadcaster to experience that with somebody you knew, because I'd have Munson on my talk show. He'd come in the studio, sit and take phone calls from the fans when I was working in Akron. Cool guy, self-made individual, and so that was a really tough story.
I just remember when that all went down, there was an outpouring of sadness from the players
Oh,
and the fans, but especially the players, because they said, yeah, he's our captain, he's our leader, he is the guy, and this is when I was just starting to follow baseball in the mid 70s is when that happened, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, what a tragedy.
Here's a really interesting sidebar. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. The Paralympics are going on in Paris right now.
Yeah.
Here's a really cool story. I want to say about 5 years ago, in the Western Hockey League, which is a junior league out in Western Canada in the prairies, there was a team at the end of the season on a road trip. I think it was going right into the playoffs, called the Humboldt Broncos. It was in the Western Canadian Junior Hockey League. And their bus, with all their players and all their coaches, got broadsided at an intersection by a big tractor trailer truck out in the prairies. It tore the bus apart. I want to say 6 or 8 of the players died instantly. Coach died. PR staff on the bus died. The whole bus, the top of the bus was ripped apart, and it rolled over, and the players got ejected. Anyhow, I think there were 15 other players who were seriously injured. One was totally crippled, lost all from his legs down. That kid did all the rehab. He kind of became the spokesman for the survivors of the Humboldt Broncos bus tragedy, raised a lot of money. That kid became a star on the Canadian Paralympic team, and he's in Paris competing as a rower.
Right on.
Single, I don't know what you call it. Single skull.
Yeah.
And I saw a video of him yesterday. I said, holy cow, talk about turning a piece of your life and that tragedy into something special. I mean, they raised so much money. NHL players poured a lot of money into this fund to take care of the families of the kids who lost their lives. And this athlete, this Canadian hockey player, who I think was 18 at the time, got crippled. He became the vocal leader, where they raised I want to say they raised like $17 million, because Canada's outpouring was phenomenal and the NHL did a lot. And this kid goes through the therapy and the rehab, and he's lost his lower limbs, and he's an Olympic rower on a single person skull. It was really cool to see the video yesterday. His family was there. That was neat. So anyhow, we're talking about the Johnny hockey tragedy and how others have gone through those experiences.
What a story.
Yeah. But if you Google Humboldt Broncos tragedy and read the story, you just can't believe it. And they have a memorial at the intersection of this rural highway out in Saskatchewan, where they built monuments to all the players who died. And they have a special service in Saskatchewan for those players every year. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
Next question.
Next question. All right, let's go here. Quick one. Shout out from Michael. He says, hey, San Diego State, good win.
Hey, first place, Southland Conference. If it doesn't work out in the Mountain West. No, I'm only kidding. Great strides. I told you so, that they would run so many wide receivers out there that they would wear out Texas Commerce, and they did. And they won. Kid quarterback played well. Marcus Cooper is a top group of 5 running back. That's a special player. Obviously, they got strength in numbers at wide receiver. Defense plays with great speed, but that was against a team that was 1-9. Mountain West is going to be much tougher. Obviously, the next 2 weekends against the Oregon State Beavers and the Cal Golden Bears is going to be a big challenge. But if they keep their players healthy, they're going to cause some problems in this group of 5 conference, because Sean Lewis did the exact same thing at Kent State. He brought in truckloads of wide receivers who could run like hell, and defenses in the Mid-American Conference didn't have the strength of numbers. He ran 9 receivers out there. They don't have 9 defensive backs in the opposing defense to be able to hold up to this. So it's going to be fun to watch. I hope the community, I hope disenfranchised Charger fan will give San Diego State an opportunity. Go see a game and tell me what you think about the atmosphere of Snapdragon. Hell, this guy sitting in the 50-yard line seat in the upper deck with the rich and famous, he had a good time.
It's a great stadium.
Yeah,
it really is.
And it gets noisy. Can you
is,
imagine if
yeah.
they had 35,000 in there?
Oh, it'd be rocking. It
Yeah.
would be absolutely be rocking. And the student section was there, and we had a great time. Again, I just wish there were more people there. The bottom bowl was pretty full. I was in the top, but we enjoyed it. But imagine you get Sean Lewis, a new innovative mind, to come here to San Diego State, trying these new things, 9 receivers, running the defense ragged. Maybe they might pull off a sneaky upset with Oregon State or with Cal. I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. That's big boy football.
Yeah.
It's Oregon State that ran for 379 yards last weekend. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think the game plan is Saturday night? Run the ball. Run the ball. We are going to run the ball.
Mhm.
And I just know that San Diego State physically in their defensive front can hold up to that.
Now, are the Cal and Oregon State games here at home?
Oregon State here, then you go to Berkeley.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, the Berkeley game, I think there's a better chance there. But I mean, they faced Oregon State a few years ago, and they were competitive, I remember, for about half the game.
And then you make mistakes and the game gets away from you.
Exactly.
So that's where we are. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Brave Bull. And he says, give Steve Lavin a couple of years and he'll get USD to the NIT.
Well, the most unique thing, when Lavin got there, I said, this is going to be fun. Again, the conference has got Gonzaga in it. The conference has got San Francisco, which is a really good program. It's got St. Mary's and Randy Bennett, which is a great program. So it's a tough conference. Lavin got there, and all these Division I kids came and transferred in, played their final year, and they were pretty decent. But what happened then, the NIL came in, and they don't have a lot of money in the NIL. And then he started to lose what good players he had who got cherry picked out of there. So he was really down. He almost had an all freshman team last year, and he couldn't get kids to come in because they didn't have NIL money, a lot of NIL money to give. So he's in a tough place. USD has not got the resources that the Zags have. It does not have what St. Mary's has got. Now, both Gonzaga and St. Mary's built their reps by recruiting a ton internationally. And that led to success, which has led to even greater success. So Lavin's a good man. He knows a lot of people. If they have a new athletic director, the aftermath of the hazing mess, if they can fundraise, if they can build an NIL, then maybe they're going to be able to get some players based on Lavin's contacts. But right now that's not happening because all these other schools, the Washington States, et cetera, they're coming in, they're offering kids a lot more money than a USD could. And USD can't offer what Gonzaga or St. Mary's or even San Francisco offers.
Yeah, he's had a disadvantage there, but he is a big get for USD to be the coach there.
Good resume,
good guy. He was a good broadcaster doing college basketball coverage in the studio. I mean, I've always liked the guy. I'm surprised he's not the coach at USF, given that his roots are there. But it seems like he wants to be part of the West Coast Conference with all these Jesuit schools.
Yeah, I just feel bad for him because he's in the shadows, and at this point, nobody really pays attention. They had hired Bill Greer from Gonzaga years ago, and that was with great accolades. And he came in and he did well early, and they actually got to the NCAA tournament. But then there was the point shaving scandal. And then all of a sudden, he just couldn't recruit, and it just kind of cascaded down on him, and then he was out, and it just hasn't been the same program since.
Didn't they beat UConn in the first round?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's a long time ago, though.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Okay, we move on. Fans Forum, what's next?
Okay, let's go here to a little social media commentary, and let's go down here. Oh, some comments about the coach. And this is from Manga. He says, this is such a refreshing solution given the demise of Mighty 690 and later 1090. So happy to see you all. Maybe a mini reunion with Hartman and Romy one day. Chet is smiling down on you guys. Bless up.
Yeah, I think about Chet all the time. And actually, I was talking to people over the weekend. I did not realize, Steve Hartman has moved. He was here. He left. He went back to LA. He's doing some part-time TV like I'm doing. I'm on KUSI every Saturday morning. Get your ass out of bed at 6:30. What I do on TV is pretty decent.
It is.
Anyhow, Steve just moved to the Valley of the Sun, so he's in Arizona right now. Romy is obviously based out of Los Angeles. Some of the other guys are around. Yeah, we'll talk about. I don't know how easy it is to pull off a reunion on Zoom with a bunch of guys, but hey, what I need from everybody here who's part of this live stream, I need you to network with your friends. And I know some of you have friends. You're not all part of the Raider Nation where all you have is enemies. Some of you have friends. want you to network and tell everybody what we're doing. Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Hacksaw's website, I write on it every day. Hell, you might even get a shout out tequila with the Insiders Group if John licks to take us out drinking one night. Anybody can sit on a 50-yard line. You can afford to buy some shots of tequila for all of our followers.
You're really rubbing that line in, I think. I'll tell you what, there was such an outpouring of love when the coach John Quintero was here to see the two of you together, brought all the warm vibes and the good feelings from 1090, 690. But it was also interesting that the dynamic of the two of you talking sports, I mean, it was real deal sports conversation.
Sports talk radio the way it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. We weren't like ranking our top 5 breakfast cereals or some other kind of cranky BS like that. It was a really good content. So I'm hoping that we can get the coach back in here. If not in studio, bring him up in a window here and he can, could join us from his estate there on the coast.
Okay. You need to network with your friends. Tell everybody what we're doing. Help us market Hacksaw's headlines on the podcast Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Next one.
Okay, here's another one about the Aztecs, and this is from Dave Meyer. He says, been a while since I've been excited about San Diego State football, but this season I am ready for a new chapter.
Well, it's different. There's no doubt about it. And somebody made a point to me in the press box on Saturday night. Lee, this community grew up on Air Coryell. This community grew up on Sid Gilman. This community grew up on throwing the football, whether that was the Aztecs when they were Division II, what the Chargers were in the early days of the AFL, what they became when Dan Fouts was here. Throw the damn football. And I'm not going to be negative towards Brady Hoke nor Rocky Long. They were cut from a different cloth, and their thing was run the football, and we're going to play really great, tough as cement defense and win. And they won, and they won. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't sexy. It kind of worked against them because it was in the Mountain West Conference, not what people liked, which was Pac-12 football. So it was a different type of football. But this guy's got a good resume. Now we'll see. We'll see how this does when they start playing the people in the Mountain West. Because those guys, the Boise's and the Fresno, they do play big boy defense too. That's going to be fun to watch those matchups as we get through this non-conference part of the schedule and go into the start of the conference season. But give Sean Lewis a chance because the guy's got a resume. I mean, what he did at Kent, what he did at Bowling Green, what he did at Syracuse, what he did the first half of the season with Coach Prime at Colorado, that was really impressive X's and O's stuff.
Yeah, there's potential here if they can, hit the right kind of talent, the right kind of player. I mean, it's like back in the day when you were broadcasting during the Marshall Faulk era, they filled up Qualcomm Stadium. But they can do that all again. It'll happen.
That's the most amazing thing to me. They averaged 48 to 52,000 during the Faulk era, the 3 great years that were there with Al Luganville. And they chucked that ball all over the field. And they had guys that wound up in the NFL, the Darnay Scotts of the world and the Oz Hakeems of the world, and obviously a Hall of Famer like Marshall Faulk. And I thought they had arrived as a football program, and those guys left, and then it faltered. And then they fired Luganville, and they went a different direction, and it was a real struggle. They had good guys as coaches. They just could not turn the corner and get it over the top. And they went from Luganville to Ted Tollner, great gentleman, smart guy, to Tom Kraft. I thought was X and O's brilliant, but he just academically, he couldn't hold on to the players that he had. He had real trouble. That's when APR kind of came into effect. And then they made a mistake. They hired Chuck Long, who was living off his name as an Iowa quarterback and a Heisman guy. And it was an utter disaster. And then that brought us brought us Brady. And he laid a foundation, and he jumped ship. Rocky came in, did a hell of a job. Brady came back, did a good job, but then it got away from him, and then the landscape changed again. Just like Kraft got burned by the APR rules as to who you could bring in and what they had to do academically, Brady got burned by the NIL and the transfer portal, and he was old school and just couldn't accept it, that the landscape had changed. And that's why so many veteran coaches have left college football in the last 24 months or so. So, Sean Lewis, it's going to be fun.
Imagine during that last part of the Brady Hoke era, I think it was Hoke, not Rocky Long. But remember, COVID hit and they didn't have a stadium. They were playing at Carson. Imagine if none of that happened. They could still play at Qualcomm. There was no pandemic. That team was successful. and there was a lot of momentum building, and it just seemed like they got the rug pulled out from underneath them.
They lost all those home games. They played on the road for 2 years.
Yeah.
Nobody went to those games. I'm
No.
not driving to Carson.
Yeah, no way.
That's a road trip. So that was a big issue. And then he had quarterback problems, and they couldn't keep quarterbacks, and the ones they got didn't work out. Then they had injury factors, and then the whole thing just kind of denigrated. And I'm not going to say anything against Brady Hook. I think he's a hell of a guy. I mean, I'd sign up and go play for him because I believe in his philosophies. I thought he was a good teacher, but they couldn't handle quarterbacks. And because you don't have a quarterback and it's a quarterback's game this day, it's just a different era. So he had a good run, and Rocky had a great run. They did it differently. This guy has had success the last places he's been. So let's give him a window and let's see what Sean Lewis looks like.
And maybe they have a quarterback in Danny O'Neill.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Okay.
A couple more.
Okay, let's talk a little Dodgers baseball with Tom talking about Ohtani. He said he did this for 6 years and pitched as good in Anaheim, and no one knows that because of a putrid owner.
Well, I think baseball people appreciate the greatness of Ohtani, and we've talked extensively. People don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm in those clubhouses. I know the prep, the video prep, the physical prep, just to be a DH every day, and then the study. And then Ohtani was doing all that. And then, by the way, throwing sessions in between starts and bullpen days, and the video prep about his next start on Sunday and who he's going to pitch against. I don't understand how he handled the workload. There's not enough hours in the day to do all that. And by the way, physically be able to execute everything he did. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime type of player. I don't think we'll ever see this again.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's not just the physical skills, but it's the mental skills. I mean, he's in a new country, new culture, new language, and nothing phases him.
No.
I mean, it's just what a guy. And yeah, he was buried in Anaheim, but I'm glad that the whole nation's seeing him now with the Dodgers.
Concur with you. I mean, he's a very, very unique talent.
Can we squeeze a Padre one in here?
Do it.
Okay, let's go to Versa. It says here, the Padres sit in third in the National League West, but I see them better off than any of the three. Once Yu comes back along with Tatis, that's like acquiring two All-Stars. I see the Twins and the Padres in the World Series.
Minnesota's kind of an underrated team. They've had a lot of injuries to their everyday players. Byron Buxton's a really good player. Can't stay on the field. Yeah, I think he's been on the DL 3 times this season. I don't know if Minnesota's got enough starting pitching from pitchers 2, 3, 4. That's going to be a big issue there. You know, and by the way, over in the American League, you do have the Yankees and all their bats. And you do have that collection of draft picks who've all come up together and are playing really well in Baltimore. So and Milwaukee's had an unbelievable season with all the injuries they've had and no Christian Yelich. And, you know, that manager might be the manager of the year over there. So we pay attention to what Milwaukee's become. So there's a lot of good teams out there. I just don't know that the Twins have enough players to be able to do it. I think the Padres are really close, but we don't know yet about Darvish. And we don't know Musgrove, even though he's had 3 good starts, the last one was not good. So we got to see if Musgrove is going to be able to hold up for what the month of September brings. And I'm privately worried about the 155 innings that Michael King has already piled up. And Cease looks worn out to me. So we're going to get Tatis back tonight, and we'll find out how he holds up to the final month of the season. But there's no doubt the Padres are doggone good. I think the most important thing is playing at home. If even though they have the second best record on the road, if the Padres can get home field advantage for the wild card rounds, that's hugely important. And then if they get to the National League Championship Series, if Philadelphia's out there, Dodgers are out there, and those are the 2 teams I think you got to pay attention to. But let's get to through this final month of the season, and then we'll be talking October baseball, which is what the goal was all along.
Well, you know, the Padres are kind of the hot choice, the trendy choice to be the team that could go deeper than you expect any team to go because of their bullpen has been rebuilt and their starting pitching. So, I mean, obviously we're fans. We'd love to see that happen. But just imagine it for a moment if Versa here was right and we got a Twins-Padres World Series. The media would go, oh, this is awful. There's no Yankees. There's no Dodgers. And we'd have to hear all that crap.
Yeah, but do you think either the Padres or the Twins could get through the roadblock that is just ahead? That roadblock could be Dodger Stadium and everything LA's got. You know, Ohtani, Mookie, and Freeman, that's pretty doggone good. Or that blockade might be Bryce Harper and the boys in Philly, and they do play like hell at home. And then obviously if you ever got to the World Series, that is, even though you don't like them, that is Soto and that is the Judge, and that is Stanton, and it's a pretty good everyday Yankee lineup.
If there was a World Series in Minnesota, they have an outdoor stadium now, right? So, I mean, in late October, I mean, that could be pretty crazy.
You own hoodies and turtlenecks.
That's not baseball weather, though.
Wouldn't be the first time ever.
Yeah.
Come on, get out of the house. All right. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed what we're trying to bring you. We're here Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. By the way,